And we'll be starting shortly. We've got a cracking session here, and I'm going to be introducing you to growmysme.co.uk, and there's a lot of fantastic information in that program. So the people already on the call, make sure that you save that, and I'll show you it on the slide. And there's a terrific Twitter feed as well. It's called Humber Growth. And that's well worth looking at. Lots of different things going on there. So make sure that's in your Twitter feed. And there's a LinkedIn page as well. There's a landing page, Humber Business Growth Hub. So I'll be showing you that again, but there's lots of things there. A real toolkit for the SME, a terrific toolkit that's being delivered by Winning Moves. So we've got a terrific toolkit of things there. All of this is in partnership with the Northern Powerhouse. So if you didn't know, we're actually in the north. For what it's worth, I'm from the south, probably a lot further south than some of you. Okay. Well, I reckon we've got about 3 or 4 minutes before it starts off. So welcome for joining. It's great to see people on a Friday morning here. And there's a couple of people already sending me some text, which is nice too. There's actually someone from robertperfectingconversations.com, and he's doesn't think he's got the link yet. So I thought I'd just put that out there.
Right, okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're in a virtual COVID world, a world of logins, registrations, webcams, comms, internet links, and computers. The days of walking into a room and there was an overhead projector, for those of you that remember the overhead projector, long gone. In fact, there's probably people on the call thinking, what is an overhead projector? Yeah, years and years ago, overhead projector. And then we moved from slides to PowerPoint, and then probably got a bit overdone, and quite a few of us have experienced recently death by PowerPoint, and I promise you today will not be death by PowerPoint. There's going to be a lot of interaction on a Friday morning, so I hope you're ready for a bit of interaction. I'm sure that you are. For those of us that are based in Hull, we're not doing so bad so far in the lockdown. Hull's not moved up the ratings yet, and I hope that's the same for Grimsby, which is good news. And for those of you that are going through it at the moment, and our sympathies with you, of course. All right, we've got about 2 minutes, and that's 120 seconds, whichever part of the hemisphere you're from. So 120 seconds. What could you say in 120 seconds? Okay, we're getting a little bit closer to it, I think. So we just, shall we do a countdown? Should we do a countdown like they used to do for the Apollo missions? I recently watched that Apollo movie, totally recommend it, about Neil Armstrong landing on the moon. I think it's Ryan Gosling, I think is the lead actor there. Pretty good motion feature. I can't say that I know how it feels, because I won't. But our technology is a lot better these days, isn't it? A lot better. A lot better. So dzień dobry, Marcin, and hello, Kevin. So over to my co-host. Do you think I should do a countdown yet?
Could do.
Okay. we'll give it another couple of seconds. Am I all right to start?
Yes, absolutely, Bob. Thank
All
you.
right. Do you want to do an introduction to me, a huge build-up, or perhaps I'll introduce myself? Okay. Well, the first thing is I'm truly hoping that everybody's cool and everybody's safe, and you should be able to see some slides there. You absolutely should. And so let's have a look at the first one then. And in the first instance, there's real things to take notice of there. So I'd invite you to look at growmysme.co.uk. I'd absolutely recommend making sure that you've got that. And also, I would recommend you link to the Twitter feed on Humber Growth. There's some terrific information around there about our regional economy. And on the LinkedIn landing page, there's some great information for Humber Business Growth Hub. So that's absolutely worth connecting with. So what I'm going to do today is talk to you about the new normal in terms of communication strategy. The new normal. We've heard that word quite a lot, haven't we? The new normal. And that's something because the face-to-face meetings are a little bit on the back foot at the moment. So my background to this, I'm an international business development specialist. And what does that mean to you? It means that I'm used to using distance as part of my toolkit for communication. Quite often, I work mostly around Central Europe. So that's going to be Poland, Germany, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary. That's the Central Europe. And I would say about 70 to 80% of my communication is actually through the webcam, and it's mostly not face to face. So the if you like, the initial interactions face to face, but the rest of it tends not to be. So let's have a look how I can equip you. And what you should have in front of you is this. So I'm hoping that's what you can see. I'm hoping that's the case. And you can see there's a dashboard there. So let's just have a little look at the technology that we've got. And in the first instance, you've got the chat. So those of you on the call, please use the chat bar. It's already been used, which is terrific, but do use that chat bar. So you can do it in different ways. You can chat to everybody. So if you wanted to put in there, this is fantastic, I'm absolutely enjoying Bob Spence, send that out to everyone. But if you click on it, you can text me directly. So you might say, well, can you slow up or can you slow down? So you can do two things there. You can do two things there. Across, all the way across. So apart from me, if everybody can mute themselves, that would be fantastic. But because of the numbers, we may be able to have an open Q&A as long as that's okay. And then what we have here, there you go. You've got the reactions. Now you can click on that button and give a thumbs up, or if you want, if you really want, you can put a thumbs down. You can do that if you need to. There's not one for cheers, so that's a great big shame. And there's not one for boos, and I guess that's a bit of a bonus. So let's have a look. Where does this material come from? Where does this material come from? And I think that's something worth knowing as I go through it. Does it come from England? Well, England, let's have a little look at England. Yeah, in England, there's 432 people per square mile. So distant communication has not been as vital, really. Even in Hull, people tend to meet. Now, where I'm from, and if you're trying to work out my accent, it's clearly not from Hull. I'm from South Africa, Durban, and back home, yeah, 48 people per square mile. I've also worked from Hong Kong and Australia. Now, the point of sharing that with you is that the Southern Hemisphere has always been used to doing business at a distance. Now, I don't mean making sales at a distance, but all the other actions that you need to do to actually be successful, which means winning customers, keeping customers, developing customers. Because in the first instance, the population levels are so low, most of it's done at a distance, which means a lot more text. It means a lot more phone call. It means a lot more email. It means a lot more webcam, far more than the Northern Hemisphere, because it's not absolutely critical, is it? And we've had other things that in the last 10 years have made a trend towards doing things at a distance. So although we've got no face-to-face at the moment, this has been part of a trend. And you can see the trend starts with, if you can remember all that volcanic ash 10 years ago, and there's been requirements to cut travel for a number of reasons. And we've also had the improvement of technology. I mean, I can pretty much share with you that in terms of Australia and Hong Kong, as soon as Skype became stable, people jumped on it in the first instance, literally jumped on it. So we've got these different technologies of which we're using a version of it today. And there's other reasons that people have been starting to use these products. You've got the cutback on business travel, and then you've got the punchline, which is the tremendous impact of the pandemic, the COVID virus, and that has cut down meetings. I'm going to come back to that. So what's actually been happening over the last 10 years, we've started to move from kind of relationships that depended on handshakes and eye contact to relationships that are more and more engaged with technology, to the point right now, for many of us, the first thing is, shall we do a Zoom? Shall we do a Skype, a Google, a Teams, a Cisco? What are we going to do? So that's where we are. Now, here's the thing here. We're going to have a look at something. Now, I'd like you to get your phone and put menti.com into the browser. All right. So let's go to menti.com and put that in the browser. Put that in your browser. So let's put the screen up. Let's put the screen up. Okay, we're just having a little bit of fun here now. All right. So let's start this. So what we should have when you come up to menti.com, it says join a presentation. Join a presentation. And then what you do then, you're going to put in that code. And that code is 3955492. And you click submit. So if you look at that screen, yeah, it's me. And there's someone else. So there's two of us. Is anyone else going to join us? So put on your phone, menti.com, and it'll come up. And what you've got there is like a little dashboard, and it'll say, get ready to play. Okay, well, it looks like not everybody can engage with this, but let's just have a go with it. So let's start the first thing. So if you look at your phone, answer first. So just right now, what percentage of customers would give a referral? So you need to enter what you think. So right now, in this moment, if you asked a customer to introduce you to somebody, even at a distance, how does that look? Okay, well, look, there's the first piece of great news for today. 91% of people, according to a poll taken in May through the Institute of Directors, would give an introduction. So what I would say on that basis is that you might want to consider asking your best clients, could you introduce someone similar to me? So that figure's gone up. Okay, let's have a go to the next one. Okay, the technology here. Let's see what we've got. So what's the next one? Well, the leaderboard is nobody. So nobody's the leader at the moment. So let's have a look at the next one. Question 2 of 5. Let's have a look. So we've got another question comes up. Bum, 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 bum. So let's see what we've got. Now, that's the leaderboard. And let's have a look at the next question. All right, let's see. Okay, well, we're kind of having some fun with this today. That's one of the magic things about using technology. I'm going to come back to that if that's all right. I thought that was gonna work better than that, but things happen, don't they? Things happen. Not to worry. We'll come back to that quiz. So let's have a look at the problem in hand. All right, if you can come back to me, let's have a look at the problem in hand. So I'm guessing everybody can see that okay? Great. The problem in hand. Now, the problem in hand is something like this. If you go to the top, you've got the new normal. And if you go to the bottom, you've got the old normal. And you kind of got like a time frame, okay? So the time frame is when you start the conversation, and you can see it goes from left to right. Can you see that? Can you see that? Fantastic. So from left to right, you've got your introduction through a webcam, and you've got a time frame. And then at the top, you've got how people receive things. And at the bottom, you've got what you think you're presenting. So what's happening right now is it's kind of oscillating, because most of the time that we communicate, we're communicating in the old normal, but we're communicating our ideas from the old normal into the new normal. So for example, on a webcam call, most of us, or if not all of us, are used to making eye contact with the person we're talking to. But if we do make eye contact, they can't make eye contact with us because our vision will be slightly down. So it's confusing. So when you're trying to get ideas across the line, for example, rather than look at the person on the call's eyes, what you need to do is actually look into your webcam. And it's the first tip. This is an A5 red arrow, and it's been laminated. Look at that, no expense spared. And what to do is put that red arrow on your PC screen or on your laptop, and that red arrow will force you to look into the camera, and the person at the other end can engage with your eye contact, because people like to make eye contact, because your eye contact is into the camera and your eye contact is with them. If you look at the screen, your eye contact is not available for them. So that's the first thing I would suggest. If you're going to do something through a webcam, have something that acts like a crib sheet to force you to look at the camera. For the record, I've got various ones of these dotted around, because my habit is to look at someone's eyes as well. So that's something to consider, eye contact, because it's very confusing, very, very confusing, because it kind of oscillates and it doesn't help. The next thing is, in this current climate, there's such a tremendous volume of online information. Everybody's jumped online. So if you click your LinkedIn profile open, wow, there's so much content, tremendous volumes of content. Even today, you've got this Northern Powerhouse funded program that's running, but we're not the only show in town. I think for Humber, we're the best one. But there's a lot of content online, whether it's through a webcam, whether it's on a social media platform. People's emails are getting longer in this pandemic, and I'll come back to that. But it all fights with something called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. And I'll explain to you what that means. And you need to consider this when you're communicating with people. It essentially means, retention of new information drops dramatically. It goes down from 100% to 20% in 30 days. So if you look up the Ebbinghaus effect, it's a proven effect. It's been around a long time. Unfortunately, through the webcam, you are not as memorable as you are face-to-face. I've got a pal of mine in business development, and he's got every asset you could hope for. He works in wealth management, for the record, but he's 6'2". He looks a little bit like George Lazenby when he played James Bond, for those of you that can remember that. And he's got an accent like Richard Burton. So he's got such incredible presence when he comes into a room. Exactly the kind of person that you would remember and trust for your wealth management. Now, in this current environment, he loses all of that charisma and presence, and his arguments, therefore, deteriorate just as much. So, if you're looking to communicate with a new client, an existing client, you're looking to develop a client, you're looking to share an argument through someone through a camera, you've got to think that retention deterioration is much more powerful right now, much more powerful. So whatever arguments you're going to get over the line, retention of new material, it's dropping dramatically in this new period. Oh boy. And this is how it works, okay? You kind of got two axes there. Can you see that? Can you see that? The first axis is interest. And if you want someone to stay interested in you, the key is to be relevant. The key is to be relevant. I'll give you an example of that. There's a lot of home delivery things going on at the moment, and not so long ago, I upgraded my television, but the reason I upgraded it was it needed replacing. So it was a replacement and an upgrade. And for some reason, the people that supplied it to us think that the purchase was because of the sound system, and they wanted to have a conversation with me around sound systems. It's just not interesting to me. So for them to make it relevant to me, the only way they could make it relevant is if my TV had broken down again, because that's the only time I have interest in my television. So you need to think about this. If you're going to communicate with people at a distance, you have to be relevant to them much earlier and much more effectively. Okay? So if you think, for those of you involved in business development, the concept of business development conversations, where we talk about the features that we offer, then we get to the benefit case. We've got to launch the benefit case for whatever we're doing much, much earlier on to keep people's attention. Because what we need to do is break through that barrier, because that barrier has been pushed back because there's so much noise online, tremendous amounts of noise. According to some data around LinkedIn, LinkedIn content has gone up by nearly 600% since January, 589%. 589, nearly 600%. So LinkedIn, for example, is 6 times as busy as it was in January. So that was from Gartner. Thank you for that, Gartner. The amount of people that are on webcam calls, okay? According to Zoom, and that's not to say they're doing anything other than promoting their product. According to Zoom, the use of their platform from January, okay, to July, over a 6-month window, went up by 2,312%. And for those of you that use Zoom, you will have noticed they've been continually upgrading what the product does throughout that period in terms of security. 2,000, that's incredible. So in the past, you might do one Zoom or one webcam call a day to somebody. Most people are doing 4 or 5 that are buyers. Most people that are responsible in operations, the amount of time they're spending on a call, it's gone up. So we have to attract their attention, improve our skills, and that through the Northern Powerhouse program, through the Humble App, that's what I'm going to talk to you about. So we have to gain their interest by being relevant much more early on in the conversation. We mustn't leave them searching for the relevance. So here are the 4 environments that we have to work with, the 4 environments. The first is our use of text, which is writing. We have to look at that, which we're going to. We have to think about, well, how do we sound? If people are so much busier, how do we sound? How are we looking through the camera? Right now, you've got me, courtesy of RingCentral. I've got a green screen behind me, microphone in front of me. I should be slap bang in the center of your screen with some slides. So how do we look visually? Finally, if the amount of time we can meet people face to face is being diminished, and I think around the United Kingdom, it's been diminished across the country. across the country, it's being diminished. What can we do? What can we do? What can we do? So we're going to explore those 4 environments: text, use of audio, the visual approach, and what can we do to personalize things when we can't meet face to face. So let's have a look at it. Email construction, text, WhatsApp, the text box during a meeting like this. So let's start off with email construction. Okay. Now this is a piece of work that hasn't been released yet. So I would suggest to you just to test this. According to Kosminski University, who I consult with, who a business school in Poland, they have done an assessment of the size of emails. Although it's a Polish institution, they were measuring the use of English across Central Europe. Hello, when we've got some great bit of text just come in here. Let's have a look. Excuse me, I just want to check what that was, if you don't mind. So what have we got? Will these slides be distributed later? They absolutely will. So thanks for asking. And not only that, I'm going to be issuing two pages of notes that'll come out to you on Monday. So you'll get those directly from Digital Catalyst webinars. Okay, so yeah. So let's go back to that. But thanks for asking that question. Truly appreciate that. So let's have a little look at email construct. So what's happening is, according to their research, which is across Central Europe, although I believe, Kevin, Marcin, the Institute of Directors are investigating the same thing. It's the size of emails has gone up. It has. Because what's happening, because we can't meet, because we no longer have face-to-face monthly meetings, or we no longer get the chance to meet our clients, people are relying on what they write much, much more than before. Much, much more than before. Now, most of us, and I presume there are no authors or writers on the call, we're not trained to do that, actually. We're not trained to do that. So what they discovered is, over a 6-month period, the word count on English language emails has gone up. It's gone from 100% to 121%. So emails are more likely to have 20%, 1/5 more content. Now, here's the thing. If your email is more than 3 paragraphs long, every paragraph after the first 3, you get attention deterioration. Now, remember our pal Ebbinghaus at the start? Yeah, it deteriorates. If you want someone to read something, you're going to have to start to package your emails differently. And this is what to do. This is what to do. You ask permission to use bullet points. That's right. That's right. That's what to do. So I say to Sadia, you're a new client. In this moment, because we're unable to meet as often as we would before the COVID, a lot of my email content will actually be in bullet points, because I respect how busy you are. So tell people in advance you're going to use bullet points. And here's another tip, okay? Here's another tip. Put in the subject bar, I put the attention. So it would be today's webinar, then in brackets, 3-minute read, no action. Now, if you put how long the email is, and if there is no action, put in no action, the likelihood of your email being opened and dealt with, it's high. Because people love to open emails where there's no action, and it's quite clear how much time they're going to have to invest in reading it. Think about it. It works. It absolutely works. So think in terms of, don't write longer emails unless you have the skill with words that Shakespeare and Tolstoy did. Try and write things in bullet point form. Ask permission to do that, because it can seem a bit strained. Try not to, if you can, put that small talk pad in that we're so used to. I'll give you the example. Good morning, Sadia. I do hope that you're fine. I hope everything is okay in Birmingham. I read this morning the COVID count has gone up. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. But you imagine that Sadia is receiving 20 emails a day with those 3 paragraphs. She's going to get a bit of a compassion fatigue. So I just put, Sadia, I do hope that you're well. Bang. I'm straight in. It's a consideration. It has it in the subject box, the subject matter, then in brackets, how long the email is, and if there's action or no action. If you do that and you're doing a lot of communication through email, professional people, commercial people will appreciate your approach. Leave the small talk to the telephone. GSM text. Now, GSM, that's mobile phone text. Now, this is one of the mediums that, again, it's being used more and more and more. So let me give you the difference between an email and a GSM text. Okay, the key differences. Technically, there are differences, but it's expectation. People would expect an email to be formal, to be businesslike. Okay, they expect text to be casual, friendly, and concise. So, you know, if an email wears a shirt and cufflinks, then a text wears a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. Texts are usually what people want. So that's one reason that text messaging is good for professional communication, for communicating what you want. That's where to use it. The one that's really up and coming is WhatsApp. Now, I'm having a guess that everyone's got WhatsApp on their phone, and WhatsApp now has 1 billion users. Whoa. So it's on a par with Gmail, Facebook, Chrome. Whoa. WhatsApp. It's taking over SMS and phone calls as the primary call. That's for people with smartphones. The way to use that, or best practice, is address the person, summarize the reason that you're messaging them, but do it in one block before you press send. If you keep allowing your WhatsApp messages to go out in granular style, so let's say the first thing is that Sadia sends me, "Hi, Bob." Okay, that's "Hi, Bob." "How are you?" Oh, okay, that's "How are you?" "Is this a good time?" Is it a good time? Okay. For what? "Can I call you at 2 o'clock? Oh, wow. All right. You imagine if you just put in the WhatsApp, "Hi, Bob, can I call you at 2 o'clock? So try not to send them in a granular form, and think of the punchline. So people remember you for the different ways that you're using these tools. I'm working with many people, and there are some people, their use of WhatsApp is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And I'll give you some examples of this. WhatsApp is not a place to ramble. Decide what you want the reader to do. So whatever it is on WhatsApp, think in terms of what you want them to do, and ask yourself, would you take action if you were reading this text, if you were the recipient? It will go a long way. It will go a long way to getting action. So let's have a look at the chat box, and we've just seen that in use. Okay, this is a training session, and there's a handful of us on the call, and it's a webinar. And if you like, my job is to keep the webinar on time, deliver as much value as I can. We've got the chat box active, and the moment someone uses it, it comes up, and you know how to use it. But this is not really a chat box forum. It will be at the Q&A session, but right now it's not. So in meetings where there's more than 2 of you, the chat box is quite critical, and you need to get people using the chat box. those of you that were on the start of the call, you'll notice that the first thing that I did with my slides was get you to think about, the chat box. There's the chat box. That's how it works. The more people that you have on a call, you need the chat box. You need the chat box to work. Certainly, think in terms of that when you're on a call and there's 3 or 4 people, how you would use the chat box. You might put questions in there. Questions are welcome in a chat box, because the challenge is with audio meetings, when there's 3 or 4 of you on the call, the challenge is if just one of you is on a weak VoIP platform, they're going to hear things slightly slower than you, and you kind of have this Apollo 11 effect where it's kind of like there's a gap between someone saying something and someone hearing something. You can see it on the TV when politicians are speaking on Skype, and you can see it's kind of out of sync. It's very difficult to have a conversation when people are out of sync, and it's very difficult to judge when to ask a question on a webcam call. So what you do, you put your questions into the chat box. Alternatively, you can hold your hand up like you need the washroom, but use the chat box. So those are some considerations there. I've got a couple of screenshots there of what to do and what not to do. And you can see, if you look at the right hand one, it's very punctual, isn't it? Hi, Jen, sorry, things are crazy right now. Yes, we can do that. Can you be more specific? Thanks. Well, if you look at the amount of text on the other one, I'm sorry for the delay in my response. There's so much going on. Now, if you remember, when you're using your phone, it's like t-shirt and jeans. The content on the left is cufflinks and shirt. It's too long. The other thing to consider is the use of signatures. If you look at that, oh boy, putting that big signature on a GSM, it really doesn't work. GSM's short, snappy. All right, audio approach. So let's have a look at that. We've got the telephone call. Oh my goodness. Conference calls. Oh no. The webcam meeting when the camera's off. The webcam meeting when the camera's on. And how you listen. So let's have a little look at that. So before, when you were in a meeting, you got this kind of 3-dimensional effect, haven't you? People are taking in how you sound, what you're saying, your body language, your presentation, your arguments, the whole thing. So people have got this real dynamic feel for what you are when you're getting information across. The challenge is that when we're not in a room with somebody, we lose so much of that. We lose so much of that. So you need to think about, well, how do I sound? How do I sound? And as a reflection, it's probably worth, you're not going to enjoy this, recording yourself. I know you're thinking, oh my goodness me, Lordy, I've got to record myself. Well, think in terms of a reflection on your use of your own language and the tonality of your voice. There is nothing wrong with having a telephone voice. I'll tell you a little story here about telephone voices. Some years ago, I had a business, and it was actually in Sheffield. And to cut a long story short, we needed help on the telephone. Okay, and a guy introduced me to another guy who was his younger brother, and he says, my brother's an actor. I said, right, and he'd be really good on the telephone. I said, well, all right, I don't quite get that, but you know, you're a good friend. If you, I'll happily talk to him. So this guy comes to meet me, and what we were doing was organizing business to business meetings. Okay. So I said to him, the first thing is, I said, are you good at remembering things? He said, yeah. He said, I have to. He said, when I'm touring, any theatre production, I need to know the lines of 2 or 3 parts, because, you know, I may have to cover. I said, okay, that makes sense. I said, what makes you think you'd be good on the telephone? He said, well, I can do voices. So I'm thinking, all right, I'm not too sure if we're on the same page here. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, for example, as an actor, I have to be able to do different regional accents. I said, well, we're in Sheffield. I'm not too sure how that works. So he said, no, I can do better than that. For example, do you want to hear my Sean Connery? He did a Sean Connery impression that was like incredible. I can't do it. And I got him to ring my secretary, and it was so he was ringing round people saying it was him, but talking like Sean Connery. And I'm guessing other people in Edinburgh can do that. Did it make a difference? Lordy, it did. Not only that, he had a pal who was Canadian, who was also an out-of-work actor, and he came and joined us. And you're never going to guess who he could do. That's right, he could do a Clint Eastwood. So in our office in Sheffield, you either got someone who sounded like Sean Connery or someone that sounded like Clint Eastwood. So we either got James Bond or Dirty Harry. Voice and tonality, it really is a key thing. Now, I'm not suggesting that you learn how to do impressions of people, but the idea that tonality and accent doesn't make a difference, it does. Now, I'll give you an idea here. A couple of things. So when I'm talking to people, I actually, on a call, I slow down and I look to leave gaps because silence is useful, and I go down an octave. In fact, I go down an octave, and on a good day, I actually turn into Gladiator. So you've actually now on a webcam call got Russell Crowe talking as Maximus. Now, I'm not saying that people hear that and think, oh my God, I've got a Gladiator on the call, I better listen to him. But I am saying that in general, if you can, slow down, leave gaps, and go down an octave, and not snatch at opportunities to speak. It's a key thing. Make sure the other person is finished, especially on webcam calls. Because unfortunately, on a webcam call, because of the delay, it really does sound like you're interrupting somebody when you're asking a question. And try and think of this. When you're listening to the other person through the camera, are you listening to understand or are you listening to respond? Are you listening to understand or are you listening to respond? Now, I don't vote in this wonderful country, so I've got no view on politics. But listen, next time on the TV, when politicians are talking, are they listening to understand what the other person is saying? Or are they listening to wait for a gap where they can respond? And mostly people listen to respond, not to understand. But you're far better off listening to understand. Because if you can understand where someone's coming from, you'll have a much better result. You've got two other concepts here: webcams off and webcam on. I was asked on a Q&A about this on Monday. If you can, insist the webcams are on. All of them are on, if you can. If you can, insist that people can't dial in, because if they dial in, they'll be on a mobile network and everyone else is on the internet, and there'll be an audio delay. If you can't insist that, I would use this little technique. It's a concept called a shout out. Okay, it's called a shout out. So if you're running the meeting, have a little sheet. So I have usually a little black book next to me. So there's 4 people on the call, and what I would do is shout out that person's name about every 3 minutes. So I'll give you an idea of a shout out. So I'd be saying, actually, I'd be very interested in your opinion on this, Sadia. That's a shout out. I'm asking someone to speak. I can't see them, but I'm asking them to speak, because the more you get the other people to speak, you will improve your new communication strategy. In terms of listening approach, let's just have a little look at listening approaches. The approach to use is this one. It's called Miller's Law. And you have to, on a webcam call, you must listen more carefully because you don't get all the other cues that you normally see. I was in a meeting last week and there were 5 people on the call and I just could not read what was going on because there's me there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Now I can't be looking around everybody. Not when I've got this and I'm looking into the camera. So I'm really focused on the camera. I'm doing a bit of eye dodging around to see what everyone was doing, but everybody was completely passive. So the only communication tool I could use was to listen very carefully to the contributions that they made. Now, Miller's Law is this. If somebody says something, assume it's true and try and imagine what it could be true of. Listening skills. I'll give you another one and I'll come back to Miller's Law. Because when we're not with someone, it's quite difficult. Now, I'll give you an example of Miller's Law, how this works. All right. I've got a client in London. It's a big legal firm. And I've been doing a lot of work with them. And I got 2 bits of feedback. Now, I know in the north of England, and you're probably not interested in Arsenal Football Club and Tottenham Hotspur. And I'm not that much, to be honest. I think they both play really good football. And I enjoy watching them. So they're 2 football teams from the same neighborhood. And it's very rare for someone to enjoy watching both teams. You normally support one team or the other. And what had happened was this. The senior partner of this legal firm had said to the HR manager that he thought I was an idiot. He thought I was an idiot. And she called me and said, has something happened between you and Harry? I said, not to my knowledge. Why are you ringing me? Well, he came in earlier today with a coffee and he called you an idiot. I said, well, there must be a reason for that because he attends all the coaching and I think he's one of the 2 guys that signs off my invoice. So he can't think I'm an idiot. There's a reason. Now, this technique, I could have been thinking, well, that's not right. I'm going to ring him up. And what the hell is he doing calling me an idiot to the HR? What he actually said was, Bob must be the only person in London who can happily watch Tottenham and Arsenal. He must be some kind of idiot. It's a joke. It's humorous. He wasn't calling me an idiot. He was saying that someone that could watch 2 competing teams must be some kind of idiot. Now, the point of this is because you are not going to be seeing people as much as we were before, we're having to read into what we're hearing. So I'm saying to you, you need to think that when you hear something that doesn't sound right, try and think, why might they be saying that? Because it's very difficult to understand someone's point of view. So your listening skills have to improve. They have to improve right now. So let's have a look at this. Crikey, this has gone so quickly. My goodness me. So we're going to talk about webcam presentation, how you communicate from the waist up, what you communicate from the waist up, what they communicate from the waist up. So let's have a look. Now, I'm going to take the slides down for a little bit, if that's all right. So let's stop the share. And let's just see. I'm guessing that you can, let's have a look here. So I'm just playing around with this, just to get the full effect. Now what this should show is, if we stop the share, we'll go to that and that. Sorry about this, I'm just, okay. I presume that you can see me. That's what I'm presuming. Can someone put in the text box that they can see me? Anybody in the text box, can you see me? It's a yes. It's not a lifelong commitment. Thank you. All right, we've got a yes and a yes and a yes. Oh, that's fantastic. Little bit of a delay. That's not a good advert for KCOM Lightstream. Okay. I'm going to show you now. If you think about this, you've only got the top part. So forget I've got a green screen behind me. This is some best practice about use of the webcam. And where did it come from? The Southern Hemisphere. People that have been using this for years. Now, what should be is that my nose, okay, it should be, if there's an X in the screen, my nose should be absolutely in the middle, which it is, because my camera is there and I've measured it, okay? And it should be that in terms of my shirt or blouse for the lady, it goes down about 6 buttons, so it's about elbow. So you've got this. Now, I know this looks a bit kind of Donald Trump. He likes to do a bit of that, but it's not, okay? So you need to think that when you're talking into the webcam, this just won't work. So hello, I'd like to talk to you today about Winning Moves. We're a market-leading training provider. No. I'll give you 4 techniques, okay? 4 techniques. The first one, it's called the ponderer. The ponderer, you put your fist in your hand and you're here. Now, the reason for this, and there's quite a bit of nodding with the ponderer, is to show that you're listening on a call and you're paying complete attention because your hands are visible. So I'd be going, okay, right, that makes sense. Like it. What you've got is the nodding of the head, the fist into the palm, but I'm saying what's called filler. Okay. Makes sense. Like it. Good point. Can you see? So not a lot's going on there, but if you're on a call with me, it's absolutely clear that I'm absolutely attentive to what you're saying. What tends to happen is people do this. Right, okay, fire away. Head down. They're making notes, or they could be texting or something else. I'll come on to making notes. So that's the first posture. The second one is called the Oliver Twist. Do you remember Oliver Twist? Can I have some more, please? You know, he put his hands out. Now, when you're delivering facts and figures, go from the ponderer to doing this. So I go, Winning Moves is an award-winning training provider from Birmingham. We're one of the major players nationally, and we're delighted to be working with the Northern Powerhouse. Can you see what I'm doing there? Okay, you can't just be doing that and this, because the person watching will be thinking, what's going on? But you can mix it up, and these are premeditated. What you'll find if you watch on CNN, their newscasters are excellent at what's called upper body movement. Even that is an upper body movement. The third one, it's called the parachute drop. So the parachute is on the call. It goes like this. Okay, you do that. So if I'm going to, let's try this again. So I'm saying, okay. Winning Moves, we're recognized as a market leader nationally. We'd like to work with you. It's when you're delivering something. Can you see what's happening there? You can't do lots and lots of that, because I think you know, I don't vote here, let alone in America. I know Donald Trump seems to have been doing a lot of that. I don't know what that is. I'm sure he's getting great advice. When you're looking to deliver a strong opinion, it's a thing called the martial artist, and I'll show you what that means. So it goes like this. I'd like to say that we have a series of programs that would be a great match for your needs. Now, when you're making a point, don't be scared to do that. So you've got the ponderer. Can I have some more, please? This is really important. And now you've got making points. When you want to emphasize something, you actually lean in. You lean in like that. Elbow first, and you just lean in. So it could go like this. You know what? That's a really good point. In the first instance, I think I'd like to understand further what it is you want. Mm-hmm. 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 Now look, these waist up movements on their own won't swing anything, but yeah, I can see that, Kevin. I really do appreciate you sharing that with me. It is distracting, and I'm not sure quite with the technology how to improve that, but certainly for the next one that I'm delivering, I will alter that. So I really appreciate you sharing that with me. So those are the 4 techniques. So let's go back to the slides. Let's go back to them, and let's have a look here. La, 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 la. Look at that. You get some singing as well. You didn't expect that, did you? You don't just get webcam techniques, you get singing. Woohoo! So let's have a look. Here's one more thing. Hello, we got another some more text coming straight in off the press. Am I allowed to say that? Hot off the press. Thanks for that feedback. I can't read too much of that, that's for sure. All right, let's go on to the second screen. Now, here's another tip about taking notes, because I normally understand that if someone's not taking notes, you're going nowhere in the meeting. Okay, so this is what to do. So I would be saying to Catherine, I will be taking some notes throughout. Now you can see what I've done. I've shown Catherine my notebook and pen. When I do, Catherine, I'll have my head down, but I will be listening. You need to tell people what it is you're doing, because below, no one can see. No one can see. And what I would do is, if you are making a lot of notes, make sure to lift your head back up and actually have the pen and the pad as part of your emphasis. So I'd be going, that's a really good point that you made, Catherine. The thing is, I'll be reverting back to my notes when I revert back with an email. You need to be far more engaging with your communication of what's going on. Now, I'm not going to say to you that these techniques on their own, but when was the last time that you went on a webcam call and it went as well as it possibly could? And that works both ways. People will remember the only things they can measure you against at the moment, which will be your communication skills. So just give that some thought. All right, well, let's have a look. What can we do about personalization without the face-to-face meeting? Now, I'll give you some examples. In fact, I'm going to show you an example. Yeah, how about that? No expense spared here. I'm going to show you an example of what I mean. And now we've got it. Look at that. Endless budget. I think you can see this. It's a card, and it's a plinth, and it's London. That's London. And there's some, look at that, tube there. All right, let's just see what's happening here. Just go back to the box. Okay, cool. All right, we're good with that. Well, let me explain this. And to my knowledge, not many people are doing this, or no one's doing this. All right. I do a lot of work in Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary. And I have about, up that corner, about 50 of these. 50 of these. And what I do, it's incredible. I write to people and thank them. Incredible. Yeah. It doesn't take anything. Now, this is why you should do it. Can you imagine this? I send, I know it's a caricature, but there's some of Hull that I've got as well with the Humber Bridge on it, Kevin. So you could use the same for Grimsby, I guess. And I just write, that was a great meeting, Rob. I really appreciated your time. I hope everything's fantastic in Bratislava. My very best wishes, Bob. All the best. What happens? When was the last time someone sent you a card? But what happens when they do, People go, oh, I got a card. And what do? They leave it on the desk, which kind of is a personalization approach. Now, if you're working with bigger companies, someone comes around, oh, who's that from then? And people pick things up. Who's this Bob Spence? Oh, he's the guy, he presented. Oh, that's nice of him. That's nice of him. Can you see what's happening? It's leaving value. It's leaving value. I'll give you another example of it. But I'd absolutely recommend you write people thank you notes. I really do, because I was actually in an office in December for someone I was consulting for in London, and I'm based in Hull, and they've got 2 cards that I'd sent them from Hull. One was a City of Culture card, because Hull had that, and the other was this card of the Humber Bridge. And I just dropped it in the post. It was good to speak. I appreciate your time. Recognize how busy you are. I will be doing this. I'll be doing that. Very best wishes. Have a great weekend. But they'd left the cards on the desk. So in that particular business, people were constantly picking that up. Here's another variation of it. Now this is an international variation of it, but it would work just as well. It would work just as well. And my pal in Manchester who's not on the call, Martin Byrne, I know he's done this. So let me tell you what it is. What it is this: having some donuts delivered to somebody. Crazy, I know. There is actually a business that will deliver a donut. And what it's to do, it's got to be relevant. You can't just start sending donuts out to people. People go, what the hell's going on? You know, we only spoke for 30 minutes, and the next thing I'm getting a baker deliver something. But what we did, we delivered, my business partner's American, and what happened, we delivered some American-style donuts to somebody as a thank you. It was a thank you for payment. It wasn't a thank you for taking a call. The impact that had was incredible. The managing director had written to the HR manager who had hired me, why didn't he get a donut? And she copied me in, and it was kind of like a bit of a cause célèbre. Look at that bit of French there, cause célèbre, because it's not the normal thing. Now you might think, well, okay, how much did it send you to send out 3 donuts? I think it was about £4 or something ridiculously ridiculous. Yeah, Kevin, I'm not saying you got to send pictures out of Tower Bridge and the Humber Bridge and donuts. Think about things that you can do that are not excessive, that can personalize the relationship. And I absolutely think if you've got a thank you note, when it's appropriate, it makes a really big difference. And people do leave it on their desk. So that's what I mean by a personalization approach. Send the postcard where you can't send a handshake. Look at that for a catchphrase. Maybe I should do a hashtag on that. So that's the personalization approach. Oh, look at that, Sadia. So let's think about the things that we can do. Developing rapport. You can develop rapport on a webcam call by the introduction. So for those of you that were on at the very start, it's quite rare that a webcam call opens up exactly as it's supposed to open up, exactly on time. So if you're the person in control, first of all, you need to induct people, but as soon as it opens up, you need to have your small talk ready. Now, I'm sure Sadia didn't really want to talk about whether it's raining in Hull, but you've got to be ready. You can't just leave emptiness there. So I just have like 4 or 5 things that I can talk about, because the one thing you don't want is emptiness. So if you've got one of the things to develop the rapport, you still need those small talk triggers. The other thing, normally when you go on a call, now this is really key stuff. This is ninja stuff, right? When you go on a call, you normally know who's going to be on the call. So what to do is go on LinkedIn and look at the person that you're going to be speaking to. So for example, we were on a call earlier in the week with a company in Poland, and I'd looked up that Rafael was part of this entrepreneur group, which I'm aware of. So what I did was, oh, it's great to see you on the call, Rafael. I can see that last year you were on the Asbiro Business Camp. I'm guessing that you know Camille Cebulski. Now that's a developing rapport tactic. And you don't have to be Jason Bourne to work it out. So start looking at, who am I going to speak to? What can I say at the start of the call to develop rapport? I'll give you another example. On a call the previous week, and the guy we were talking to had got a background in procurement for a major legal firm. So I said very early on, it's terrific that you're on the call, Graham. I know you're heavily involved in procurement. I'm looking forward to your feedback at the end regarding terms and conditions. Really looking forward to that. I'm developing rapport with him. I've used his name. I've said something that's absolutely relevant to what he is and what he does. And he responded. He said, I'm certainly looking forward to that. And we've already got something happening. There are multiple tactics, but this is like an introduction to it. What you need to do is achieve the right communication mix, depending on the relationship. So you need to have a bit of hard copy. You need to have a bit of text. You need a bit of WhatsApp. You need to make sure your emails are all aligned. All these environments match up. So you've got like a communication strategy. It's no good if you meet me on a webcam and I'm kind of semi-informal, if when you and out of the blue you receive an email that's just bullet points. You know, I have to sync everything, that everyone's got the same expectation. Everyone's got the same expectation. It's doable, and if you can do it, you will separate yourself from anybody. Seriously, because right now people are not considering their communication strategy. They're just not. People are jumping on calls, saying the same things, behaving the same way on a webcam as they would in a boardroom. And it does not work. It doesn't. Why would it work? Why would it work? Okay, so we're going to go into the final 30 minutes. And if I could just remind you, we had a couple of folk come on the call who might have missed the start. Do get involved with the Grow My SME webinar program, Survive, Revive and Thrive. Terrific program ran by the Humber Business Growth Hub. I would encourage you to link up on the landing page there of Humber Business Growth Hub, and you've got the Twitter feed, and it's well worth looking at that. There's some terrific events taking place. Right. So if I suggest, are there any questions anybody wants to ask me? And I'll just stand down for 60 seconds. It could be there's not. I can share the kind of questions that I do get. But if anybody's got a question at this point, hit that chat box. Otherwise, I will share a question that I often get. Often get. All right. One question I get is, should you dress formally for a webcam meeting? Should you dress formally? I will certainly share my LinkedIn page, Catherine, right at the end. I will certainly do that, Catherine. Fantastic. Dress code on calls. Now, if you look at my good self right now, you can quite easily see that I've got a, shirt on, cufflinks, I'm quite formally dressed. I know we're in a bit of a strange period where you can come on a webcam call. I was on a webcam call at 8 o'clock this morning, and I was the only person dressed like this. I think the two guys, they're like millennial guys, and one of them was dressed like he was from the beach, and the other guy looked like he just got up. And obviously that works for them, but it doesn't work in every situation. When I'm asked about dress code, I think just assume that everyone is dressed to a certain standard. If it turns out that you're dressed above the standard, it doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter. But if you're dressed below the standard, it's horrendous. I was on a call with a legal firm 2 weeks ago, and one of the lawyers, not from our side, was on the call, and he got like a goth t-shirt on, like a Metallica or Def Leppard or something, and he clearly was comfortable with it. But when you got 4 boxes and 3 of you are, you got shirts on, we hadn't got ties on, and you got someone in the bottom right hand corner who looked dressed like the lead singer of Black Sabbath, it kind of diminish the power of his legal arguments. So yeah, my guide is dress up and don't dress down. Okay, I can, Kevin. Right at the end, if that's okay, Kevin, I'm going to bring up different communication strategies across culture. I will do that. It's not the main thrust of today, but I will bring it up because it's not the same. It's not. Okay, let's do a screen share again, and we're going back into the slides, so get ready for that. Get ready for the slides. Oh boy, let's have a look at the slides again. Now, what I'm going to do is, yeah, let's have a look at this. Now, Kevin, regarding the slides, these are the 12 main, these are sales systems. But ultimately, everyone on the call, a sales system is a communication system. So think of them as communication systems. They're sold as selling systems, but they're communication systems. And these 12, according to the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce. Now, to give you an idea, the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce is pretty big. And I think you know that if California was an economy, it would be bigger than the French economy. So it's pretty big. And Los Angeles, I think that the LA economy is probably, I don't know, the size of the UK economy if you pulled Birmingham and London out of it. So it's pretty big. So if that economy says these are the 12 selling systems, the reason on these slides, that if you look them up, they are things. Most of them are books. Okay, so most of them are books. Some of them are a style, but most of them are books, and some of them are very, very, very expensive training programs. Okay, so if there's anyone on the call, I hope there's no one on the call from Sandler, but that is an expensive sales system. Good, it's expensive. There's the Challenger sale right at the start. A lot of people know the Challenger sale. Why am I showing you this? Well, there's a reason for it. Every one of those selling systems, every one was not designed for COVID. Every one of those selling systems, which is business to business, is built around that you are physically with somebody, because they're about question technique, rapport building. They're built around longer meetings than are available to us. The three that could still work are consultative selling, value selling, and solution selling. But if you look at that slide and you're looking to do a reboot of how you communicate your value, in my humble opinion, those are the three that work the best. And anyone that's bought the Medic sales program last year, you're probably ready to jump off the Humber Bridge, because about 40% of it just doesn't work when you're talking like this. So sorry, Medic, and I hope that doesn't generate a writ. I'm sure it won't. You can see that on the internet as well. I just want to backfill that. And so let's have a look at this. This is communication. So you're ready for this? All right, something different. What's happening when people meet people? It looks and goes like this. You introduce yourself. You share your credentials. You focus on what the other person wants. You kind of talk about yourself, don't you? We all do. You talk about why you're so great. Nothing wrong with that. If they want to hire you, you talk about these kind of things. And then you try and do something, don't you? So across the timeline, whether you're in sales or not, or whatever it is that you do, that's kind of when you meet someone for the first time. Those are kind of like the footsteps of how we interact with people. Okay. And, you know, it looks like that. You meet someone, you talk about your credentials, you listen to them, or it's the other way around. You listen to their credentials, you tell them what you need. You tell them this is how we do things, or they tell you this is how we do stuff. And you either talk about your business or they talk about theirs. And if you're at a point where someone's considering using you, you talk about, well, you know, this is what we do, and normally it's something like this. And then there's some kind of, wouldn't it be great to get together again? Or I'd love to discuss this with you. Or it sounds like we've got some common ground. Can we pick this up again? And that's pretty much, I think that's pretty much how it face to face, yeah, it's pretty much how it works. But we're not face to face, are we? No, we're absolutely not. And don't forget, through the webcam, it's got to beat this little fella, hasn't it? You've got to become relevant much, much more early, because otherwise we've got the Ebbinghaus effect. People just drift off, like you might be. No. Okay, hang in there. There's some really good stuff. Always leave the best stuff to last. It's like a James Bond film. Okay. So, what have we got? Let's have a look at this. Let's have a look. So there's the introduction. Now, what you've got is a timeline. Okay, you've got the start to the end, and you've got positive and negative. Can you see that? Yeah. The top bit, they're positive. The bottom bit, you're losing them. So if you're above the line, you're keeping them. If you're below the line, you're losing them. Okay. So the introduction. Mostly introductions through a webcam. The shorter the better, because it's a big fat so what. It's all right. Okay. Okay, well, I'll keep listening. When people talk about their credentials, it doesn't sound the same through a webcam. It doesn't. People are usually on a call because of what they want to be on the call for. So as soon as you get people talking about what they want or what they're interested in or how they are or where they're going or how their business is doing, it goes above the line. So clients' needs is much more interesting now than talking about how great you are. As you start to talk about your approach, unfortunately, it can get confusing through a webcam unless you've followed all these instructions earlier and you've got your approach nailed. Then you can talk about anecdotes. An anecdote is when you talk about a similar client you've worked with. You know, you say, well, I've worked with someone like you before and this was the effect. And if you look on LinkedIn, that, and if you look on my website, this, anecdotes. And I helped them and this happened and they did this and it was a great move for them. If you're not very good at answering really sticky questions, it sounds terrible through a webcam. And I'll give you the best that I can. It doesn't really matter what your politics are, but if you follow any of the news, how bad, how poor politicians from every corner of the house sound when they're asked difficult questions through a webcam. It's just terrible. They don't have that kind of presence if they're in a TV studio. Most of them are sat there with a book cabinet of something behind them, and they sound evasive. And it does sound evasive. If you should probably know what are the most difficult questions you get asked. Like, you know, I get asked this. So, Bob, where's the evidence that webcam training works? Where's the evidence? I know people are going to ask that because the next thing is, how much is it? So I need to be able to bang, bang, bang. And so do you. And you need to practice it. You need to practice it. You can record yourself. What are the top 4 difficult questions you get asked? And then record yourself speaking to the camera and make a decision. How did that come across? How did it come across? Did I lean in? Did I make points? Did I sit back? Did I lean forward? You don't have to do all of those in an 8-minute clip. You know, people think you got something wrong with your back, but you do need to look at how this goes. You pull it back up when you talk about how great you are, because that could be interesting. But if you're not good at communicating how much it costs to hire you, oh boy, boom. And then at the end, you'll say something like, well, that was great. We'd love to work with you. And you can see it just doesn't work as well through a webcam. It doesn't. So let's have a look. What's the situation? What should we be measuring to get better at this? It's called the peak end rule. And the great news is, here's some great news. Hardly anyone knows about this. It's great. You know about it because you've taken the trouble to be on this program today. The peak end rule. This is how it works. This is how it looks. People remember the peak, whether the peak of what you said was positive or negative, they'll remember it. And they'll remember the end. That's it. Now, before, you go into a boardroom And most of us have got some kind of favorite anecdote at the start. I know I have. And people don't remember that through a webcam. So you may have a very witty remark that you make at the start. You may show someone some incredible benefit right at the start, but unless it's the peak of what you're talking about, it will not get remembered. What's going to get remembered is the last 2 minutes and some peak. So really, you want to get the peak right towards the end. So if there's going to be a trough, such as the price point or the scope, get that out the way early and then aim for a really high peak. So what they remember was, oh, crikey. I'll give you an example of this. I'm working for another legal firm. And the peak was something like, oh, my goodness, they work for Harrods and they can start now. You know, Harrods is a pretty big retail brand, I guess. Being able to work now was a benefit. Try and think what would be the peak and the best end that you could produce through a webcam. So this is how to make it work. All right. Now you can see all of this is positive. All of this is positive. You can see that now. So let's see how this works. So to start with, in the introduction, you start off with what they want out of the call. So I'd start off, Catherine, great to see you on the call. What is it you're looking for from this call? What are you looking for in the next 30 minutes? Start there. Start absolutely there. Go straight into it. What are you looking for? What would a good call look like? Start. Recognized authority position is just when you position yourself very early on. So for example, not that it is, if this was I don't know, you were interviewing me for a training job, let's say, I'd start off with something like, well, as you know, I've got a postgraduate training certificate, training award from as you know, I've got a postgraduate teaching certificate from Goldsmith University. I'd start there. That's just established that I am, strange though it may be to you, seem to you, I've got a teaching certificate from one of the best places you can get one. But that's all I'll say. I won't go on about how long I've been doing this and that and the other. I've got that. What is it you're looking for? Okay. The next thing is credentials. That's the next thing, credentials. Credentials is the actual proof that you can do what you say, and do it very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. I can do this. Here's some evidence. And the evidence could be clients that you've worked with. With your approach, try and make multiple peaks. So give them 3 or 4 variations of how you solve things, but do it quickly. And then start using what's called a presumptive close. I explain what a presumptive close is. A presumptive close is this. I say to Catherine, well, of course, Catherine, when I start working with you, Catherine, when you engage me, Catherine, this is how I'd solve it. Catherine, this is a great idea for your company. A presumptive close assumes that we're actually going to do business without it being too pushy. So you need a lot of them. Contrast bias. Let me explain what contrast bias is, and you'll get this straight away. Let me explain it. Contrast bias is this. And recently, I had the good fortune to eat at a terrific restaurant in Hull at the Marina. Contrast bias is that when you look at the wine list, there's 3 wines, okay? The first wine is the house white, okay? Then there's a mid-range wine, and then there's something from the cellar. So what they normally say, so the maitre d' says, what would you like to drink? I say, white wine. Well, we've got the house white, and that's £10 for a Carafe. The Pinot Grigio is very popular. That's £18. And we've got this from the cellar, and that's £32. Now, I've got contrast bias. So most people will go for the middle one. It's called contrast bias. So the way you explain things with it is contrast bias. So don't use gold, silver, and bronze, but have that in your mind to offer them multiple variants of what you offer. And if there is any hidden value, share it. Hidden value on this call is I've got access to Southern Hemisphere training material, and it's reckoned to be right now the best material that there is for the webcam. And most people can work out why that is, but I explain it. The reason it's worth hiring me is I can do stuff through the webcam, and most trainers are just switching onto the webcam. I've been doing it for 10 years. even with that flickering screen. Value, you need to think about multi-stage proposals. So rather than sell something big, try and sell pilots. And look at that. And the way that you recap is by going back to the start. So I say, Catherine, you shared with me at the start of the call, you were looking for 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. I believe we've covered that. Can you just refresh me? Is that what we've covered? I've gone through it quickly because I can see we've got 10 minutes, but you see the difference. It's called the 4-act approach: need, offer, fit, and value. Where does the 4-act come from? The 4-act comes from every movie you've ever seen. Every movie that you've ever seen. That's where it comes from. So let's have a look at this. What does effective preparation look like for a webcam call? Well, we use our old friend LinkedIn. Yes, we do. LinkedIn is terrific preparation. Why is it? Because you can do some research about the person you're talking to. And the reason that you should do that is so that you can use their name and get them into the conversation by referring to things that you know that they're good at or stuff that you know that they'll know. So that's the first thing. Second thing, email the format of the call. How many calls have we all been on when somebody comes onto the call and doesn't quite know what's happening next? Okay, how many times has that happened? Many times. So email out an agenda. Email out an agenda. What to do, rather than have one big agenda, it's better to have 4 small agendas that equal 1, because it's easier to manage 4 points than it is to manage one big one. So that's what you need to do. Okay, send it out in advance. We're going to cover this. These are the 4 parts of the meeting. Each part should last 8 minutes. Use an odd number, not 10 minutes, because if you put in 8 minutes, it sounds like you're very, very good at managing time on a web meeting, and most people are not good at that. So make sure you do that. Okay, 1 second. I just need to click this off. That sounds better. Okay. The next thing to do, onboard your callers. You saw what I did, but when you come onto the call, what did I do? What I did was I showed you using some screenshots how the technology worked. So take screenshots of your technology and onboard people into the call. Sharing the webcam, what I would do, I would ring someone from the other side in advance and tell them, when we're on the call, I would like to bring you into the call to contribute. Is that okay? Is that okay? So ask them in advance, is that okay? Don't just have someone on a call and then just start asking them to contribute. And the final thing, use a timer. And the idea is how to keep respondents engaged on the call. Every 3 minutes, you need to talk about them. You need to talk about them. Okay? So let's keep this on track as well. Okay, we're going to talk about follow-up. So let's just come out of this for 1 second. How to follow up on a webcam call. Now, let's just try this out. Normally, when you go to someone's office, you go to the car park, you sign in, and you have some small talk from the reception area, and you might have a coffee, and then you'll go and talk. Then at the end of the meeting, they'll normally walk you down to the front desk, and you'll sign out, and you'll walk to your car. Something like that. Not for every meeting, but you understand the front and the end of a meeting. You understand that. Fantastic. Okay. At the end of a webcam meeting, what happens is everybody clicks off. So you don't have the opportunity to have that kind of warm down, do you? You don't have that opportunity. You don't have that opportunity to have the warm down. So when you set up a meeting, what you must do is this. You must, in advance, make sure that you have someone to call after the meeting. So let's say on this call, I'm saying, okay, I need to speak to Lynn after this call. I would organize that in advance. I would say, Lynn, we've got a call. It's going to last 40 minutes. After the call, I would like 5 minutes with you just to double check the action points at the end. Because that call after the call is the equivalent of the small talk that you make when a meeting is over. If you don't do that, all that will happen is all the cameras go off, and you don't have that opportunity to finish the call at the end. So the 5 points of this: email an agenda in advance. Make it very clear what you're going to be covering. Break it down into units. I use 8 units. Don't use 10. It's just too general. And break a 30-minute call into 4 units of 8 minutes. I know it's 32, but it's easier to manage the time of 4 units than manage the time of one whole meeting. Also, if you manage it in quarters, what you can do at the end of each quarter is say, Sadia, have we covered that? Does that make sense? Can someone put in the chat box, does that make sense? Have we covered that point? The next thing is, when people come on the call, you saw my screenshots at the start, onboard everybody, onboard everybody. Let everybody know how to use the chat box, how to mute their microphone. Do not assume people know how to do it. It will separate you from anyone else they're talking to, I promise you. If you need to share the meeting, so when you set the meeting up, make a quick phone call. Hello there, Derek. It's Bob Spence of Winning Moves. Quick call. We've got that meeting this afternoon. There is a specific point I'd like to bring you in. It'll be about halfway through. What I'd like to do is get you to talk about X, Y, Z. Line up an opportunity to share control of the meeting, because if you don't, it'll sound like a monologue. You do not want that. Refer to people's names throughout the call. Do your research on LinkedIn, so when you refer to the name, you've got a context point. And finally, book in a quick follow-up call after the meeting at the end, because you won't get the warm down at the end. If you do that, it will separate you. It will separate you from anyone else that's doing calls, because people don't do it. And you know they don't do it because you've been on calls and people don't do it. Okay. Sadia, we're cool. I know I've got 3 minutes. So we've covered that, we've covered that, we've covered that, we've covered that. What a terrific program. Hurrah. So here's the thing. We've got our last Q&A session before we're going to do a poll. Yeah, we're going to do a poll. So let's just see what's going on here. And let's stop the share. So we've got a couple of questions already. Yeah. I mean, we've got one question around the Far East. I can tell you for free that the Far East is a massive subject. It's like Europe. You wouldn't expect a call with an Italian to be the same as a call with a German. My experience is that webcam calls outside of Europe are far more formal. They need far more preparation. And I think you show great deal of respect if you actually email in advance the agenda, but also make it clear in the text which are the areas that are of interest to you. I think it's all about. I mean, we've actually been communicating with a company in Beijing, and that's about a month ago, and it was all about preparation. So in the 2 minutes I've got, that's as much as I can say, that you've absolutely got to get the preparation 100%. Is there any questions before, Sadia? I will actually activate the quiz. Let's just have a look. We've got a quiz here. Okay, we've got a poll. And if I launch the poll, this is going to be exciting. Okay, it's in play. I believe it's gone out to you. So if I understand it, Sadia, everybody can see that poll. And
yes, Bob, that should be the case. So if everybody can provide us with some feedback on how they found this webinar, that would be very much appreciated and help us in running and delivering some future webinars as well.
So that's gone out. And is it all right if I do my screen share again, Sadia, because we've got some information about the program? Is that okay?
Absolutely, yes. The poll questions will stay there. So
all right, man. Well, let's just do that. So we've got here. I think you can see that there. You can register your business on the website, and I'd encourage you to do it. There's some terrific benefits there. One-to-one business growth sessions, one-to-one mentoring. The scale-up support programs, and I know that these programs, Sadia, have gone down very, very well in the region. So we're absolutely delighted to be able to promote those. And that's the big thing. delivered by Winning Moves on behalf of the Humber Business Growth Hub in association with Northern Powerhouse, funded by the European Regional Development Fund. So we've got lots of stuff, good stuff going on, and I'd encourage you to get involved. I'd encourage you to attend the workshop. There's been some terrific speakers on some terrific subjects. So I think that's probably as much as I can say, Sadia, I think.